Looking all around to see what we can see. Whee! Hey! Hey, wait! Who's that I see? Oh! Oh! Is it friend or foe? It looks like. Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
What was that? Was that the movie 10? Wasn't it? Where he had binoculars.
The Nautilus?
Dudley Moore used binoculars in the movie 10, I think it was.
Oh yeah.
With Julie Andrews.
Yeah.
In the bedroom scene.
Yeah, I love that movie. I love that movie. All right. All right, all right.
I love that movie. I'll have to look it up one day and see what it was about.
Yeah, for sure.
Good. She was a good looker, she was, before she got her colostomy bag.
Oh man, colostomy bag. Ooh.
Imagine going to bed with that, especially if it burst.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. We ain't trying to hear about no colostomy bags. Ooh. Oh, I hate that. I can't stand that.
Yeah, I put a joke on my timeline about the sound of music. Did you see it?
The hills are alive with the sound of music.
Yeah, I guess you didn't see that joke about the sound.
The USA, everything in the USA, everything in the USA, everything in the USA, everything in the USA.
Some people call it.
Didn't have the top of her showing.
Oh no, it was the top of her showing. She did a full breast, showing on a movie, and it was a big time Hollywood movie that she just kind of had a bit part in, and it was just to kind of shock the public, I think, because we have such wholesome images and archetypes tied to her that it was quite shocking to me as a young lad. And, but yeah, I remember that. And so, let me just tell the audience right here, welcome to another episode of You Don't Know. You don't know, huh? So don't act like you do. Tonight, hailing from London in the UK, we have one of our oldest guests and most frequent guests, hypnotherapist and experiencer, Keithanthony Taylor. Keith, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm with us.
All right, all right.
If you're not with us, you're against us, as they say.
That's true. That's true. I think that was George Bush Jr. that said that, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Bush's wife died yesterday, didn't she?
I hadn't heard about that. Of course, I don't own a television, so I rely on my news from others. But thanks for telling me that. Are you talking about Barbara Bush?
Barbara Bush, yeah. I don't have television. 92, I think she was. I don't have television either, but I just heard it on Facebook here.
Fascinating. She died at 92. If she could have only made it to 93. It's one of these most interesting little mini conspiracy theories about Barbara Bush, and I think that this is absolutely true. Have you ever seen a picture of Barbara Bush put next to a picture of Sir Aleister Crowley?
No, I don't think I've ever seen a picture of Barbara Bush until today.
Oh, okay. Well, she's not. She's is a very strong-willed woman, and I'm not going to say anything about her parents. But let me just put it like this: she could be Aleister Crowley's twin. I mean, they look exactly alike.
Right.
And so that's a big conspiracy. Well, it just so happens that Barbara Bush's mother was involved in the occult heavily. And she was, of course, in the Illuminati and all this stuff. And she was estranged from her husband. She left her husband for about 8 or 9 months. And when she came back home, she was pregnant with Barbara Bush. And the time that they had figured out that she had conceived Barbara Bush had been while she was away. And she was staying with Aleister Crowley at the time.
Right. Well,
so Barbara Bush
I've never heard of Barbara Bush until today because I don't know much about American history and presidents because I've lived a sheltered life really. Don't get out much.
Yeah, I don't care that much, but yeah, we had that shit rammed down our throat here for years, American politics and all this stuff. And divide the American people. But of course, none of that. All that was just a prelude to this last presidential election, which was just a.
Yes. Now we've got Theresa May as another lapdog for the Americans, taking us to war again without asking our permission. Not that anybody ever does.
Of course. Who are you speaking of?
Theresa May.
Our
Prime Minister.
Is she in the British Parliament, or is she the Prime Minister?
She's our Prime Minister, and allegedly they've been letting off chemical weapons in Syria, and I would like to be in Syria to see if any of these chemical weapons really did go off. I think they probably went off in a film studio somewhere.
Oh yeah. I mean, and people, even non-conspiratorial people, are already crying foul on that. It's a shame. The American people are so misled. By this point, I think the majority of people realize that we don't have to go around kicking the shit out of these other countries. It's just not necessary. And when you really look at the thing, and I am a patriot, and I love America, and I love this country and everything. But if you take an objective look at these things, you can see that we are the aggressor 9 times out of 10.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
But of course,
I would like to correct you on that.
Okay, let's go. Let's hear it.
The American people are not the aggressor. It's the American government.
I am so glad you said that, Keith, because the government's it's out of control over here. And no, the American people don't want war. They don't want to kill people, and it's just a tragedy. But when it comes to governments that are working, without the will of the people, we always have our compadres over there in the UK, don't we? We can always depend on y'all to help us go kick the shit out of somebody.
Well, what we need is for all of the people to wake up, realise the government are the biggest killing machine that there has ever been. If you go back through history, we would realise that the government is the biggest killer there has ever been on the planet, and we would stop going into the weapons factories and making the damn weapons.
You'd think so, but maybe this awakening is happening, and maybe you and I are both contributing to it. I know that you're making a personal sacrifice right now. It's almost midnight. It's 11:52 right now. It's, for all intents and purposes, midnight. What time is it there in UK?
It's nearly 5 to 6 in the morning. It's dawn here. It's just practically daylight here.
Oh my gosh! Well, you see, we kept you up past your bedtime to taping this show and everything, so we're all making sacrifices.
And I've not been to bed for 3 or 4 days now. I've forgotten how many days since I've been to bed.
Oh my gosh! I hope you've got some hot tea or something like that to drink.
Well, I've had some tea, I can't understand what's going on, because the only reason that we have war and government killing people is because they have weapons. The only reason they have weapons is because the slave, us, we go into weapons factories and we make them. And the reason that government stockpiles weapons is because they know that one day we're going to wake up and stop making them.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And there's not enough hidden bunkers and stuff like that for the elite to go to, not enough foreign countries. It does look like somebody, there must be many conflicting agendas, but somebody's trying to go by the script that's written in the Bible of Armageddon and trying to, light up some wars in the Middle East is what it looks like to me.
Yeah. Armageddon is going to happen when our government turns the weapons that we've made on us, because they've got chemical weapons in England and in America and in Australia and in Germany. And they've got lots of them. They've got chemical, nuclear, biological weapons, and they won't think twice about turning them on us. And if it ever comes to nuclear Armageddon, I know who is going to be the one that gets it first, and it's going to be us in the UK. We're going to be expendable because we're this tiny little island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and they're going to do us first as a demonstration to the rest of the world to toe the line. They're going to say, look, we wiped out England, now behave, the rest of you.
Oh, man, they'll maybe use y'all as an example.
Right, they will.
Well, I don't, not contradicting what you're saying, I don't know if they'd wipe out the whole thing, because the way I understand it, there's 3 cities that run this control system. We've got a religious center, worldwide religious center. We've got a worldwide financial center, and then a worldwide military center. And the way I've understood it is that the worldwide religious center would be the Vatican in Rome. The worldwide financial center would, of course, be London, the Corporation of London within the greater city of London. And then the military headquarters would be Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Well, the only thing that might save the UK, I think, possibly, is that the Queen is here and she runs the world along with the Vatican.
Yes, that's true. The Queen of England. And let me tell you, I used to be somewhat of a, I'm still an Anglophile, because I come from, I'm kind of a mixed breed of, English, Welsh, Irish, Scot, and stuff like this. Right. But, always one of these people that kind of followed the royals or really liked the royals. But what I've learned about them over the last 20 years, it's kind of hard to be a fan of them anymore.
But I'm not a fan of them at all, because they're all paedophiles.
Yeah, I don't doubt that for a second. My dad was real, rest in peace, was real against the royalty and stuff like that. Ayin Thropos, that's who I am. That's who I write my books under. But I just had to throw that in there.
Yeah. But the Lady Diana, she had to go because I think she wasn't one of them. She knew too much about what the royals were into and the occult, and she wasn't wanting to be part of that. That's why she had to go.
Yes, and I think they might have killed 2 birds with stone, because there was also seemingly a ritualistic aspect to the way that Lady Diana was killed.
Yes.
That's what we hear. Now, so most of viewers don't have any problem believing that the people in high places are involved in the occult. I'm not even suggesting that's a bad thing, or that even Masons are bad. I myself am in a secret society. But people do bad things. And what kind of seems to be the dividing line in my mind is there seems to be a lot of people that think that the royals are reptilian shapeshifters. Now, I don't know what different kinds of reptilians there are, but maybe if somebody could be possessed by a reptilian from the astral realm, I could believe that. It would be a little bit harder for me to believe that the Queen of England actually turns into a big giant lizard and starts eating babies right in front of everybody on these rituals. What's your take on that?
Well, I don't know. If it's possible for reptiles to be shapeshifters, then I would imagine it's quite possible for the Queen to be one of them.
Well, yeah, I would have to agree with that, Keith. If it's possible that there's such a thing as reptilian shapeshifter, she's probably the number one going,
Yeah.
The Queen Mother, I don't know if you heard about her funeral or whatever. I guess it was probably back in the 1950s, or maybe it was the Queen Mother's mother. I can't remember. But one of the queens of England died in the last century, in the 20th century. And they buried her, and they're taking her, and her coffin was like 8 feet long. I mean, it was some ridiculously big coffin.
Yeah.
And so
well, she wasn't that tall, the Queen Mother. She was a short, fat woman, as I remember.
Yes, but you see, the idea is with these reptilian shapeshifters, is even with the current Queen of England, is that if she were to turn into a snake or a walking lizard right now, she would be like 9 feet tall or something like that. That the shapeshifting also involves getting bigger in some instances.
Yes.
So I don't know what to make of that. I think I have no trouble believing that people could be possessed by some type of reptilian entity from the astral realm. I just don't know what to think of this the physical shape-shifting aspect.
Yes.
Well, what are you putting on your shoulder there, Keith?
Magnets, neodymium magnets.
Huh? Are you? What did you lose some metal in there, or what? Why would you put a magnet on your shoulder?
I've got arthritis in my shoulder, and it's just to help it heal. Neodymium magnets or strong magnets help to get the flow of blood going in the socket so that it can heal.
Fascinating. I didn't know that.
Yeah, when you get arthritis in a joint, the way to heal the arthritis is to get the blood flowing into the socket, and that flushes out the joint and helps the socket to heal.
Fascinating.
That's the theory, according to Dr. John Bergman. Anyway, if you look him up on YouTube, he knows a lot about arthritis and the body and that kind of thing.
Is arthritis?
Sorry?
Is arthritis in your in the joints or in the bones or in the tendons, or where is arthritis live?
Arthritis lives on the surfaces of the joint, I believe. You get debris builds up on the surfaces of the. It's like you imagine getting sand in the joint. It would get painful, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah. I'm not looking forward to any arthritis.
Yeah, because you have a kind of a gel coating between all the joints, and that lubricates it and makes it smooth. But once you get arthritis, all of that starts to break down, and you get debris building up between the joints. Starts to get painful.
Oh yeah, I've heard horror stories about people in the pain. Now, how long have you had arthritis, Keith?
In this shoulder, a couple of weeks.
Oh, but you've had it other places in your body before?
Yes, I had it in this shoulder.
Oh, okay.
And I had it in this shoulder for 12 years. And then I decided when they said you need surgery done on that shoulder, Mr. Taylor, I decided, no, I don't. I'm going to cure it naturally. And I got some magnets. And I found that the pain was relieved very quickly with the magnets. And then I started using visualization and just imagined that healing was happening in here. And within a couple of weeks, I've got complete rotation of this shoulder now. And as if a miracle.
That's fascinating. Speaking of visualization, when we very first started having our conversations, maybe about 9 or 10 months ago, I was doing some pretty intense workouts and everything, and you indicated that you felt like I could bulk up a little bit and everything just by using visualization.
Now, have you been doing that?
Yeah, I believe that too, and I'm not sure that hasn't happened just a little bit. Now, is this visualization part of your hypnotherapy practice?
Yes, I do that with people. So what you should have been doing, Ayin, is to test it. You should have started taking measurements, and you'll find if you've taken measurements, you would have found if you've been doing weight training and checking your measurements to see how much you're growing. And then started after a time to start doing visualizations about getting bigger faster, then you might, if you're doing the measurements, you find you're getting bigger faster.
I agree, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to take some measurements because I'm fixing to start another round of my workouts and everything. Mm-hmm. It's about that time of year, kind of seasonal type of deal, and we're going to go for broke this time.
Yep. Yeah, and if you're doing visualization, then you can always check the obvious part is you can see immediately the result, because if you're visualizing when you're doing the weight training, if you're visualizing, you can lift more, you're going to be able to lift more. If you're pushing weights and you're saying to yourself, I can't do this, then guess what? You can't do this. You won't be able to lift the weights. If you put more weight on, you won't be able to lift it if you're there saying, no, I just can't do it. Don't put that extra weight on. I can't do it. You won't be able to lift it, will you?
No, absolutely not.
But if you're there and saying, yeah, go for it, put that extra bell on, or what do you call them? Put that extra collar on. Do you call them collars?
Just plates. The plates on the bar.
Plates. Put another plate on, and you'll be able to lift it because you're saying, yeah, I can do this. I can go. Or you can say, no, I can do this. I can do that extra 10 reps. Yeah! I can do it. Right, if you're talking to yourself and saying, I can do that extra 10 reps, or if you're reaching your limit and then somebody starts bullwhipping you, you're going to be able to get those extra reps, aren't you? It's all what's your motivation.
That's right. And then you strike like a cobra.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're using your brain, if you're using your mind, if you're saying I can, like in my hospital bed, this month is 40 years ago that I was in my hospital bed in April 1978, being told, you're paralysed, Mr. Taylor, you will never walk again. This is it for you. Get used to it. That's what they were telling me. Now, if I'd taken that on board as my dialogue and said to myself, this is it. I'm finished. I'm done. I'm paralysed. Do I look paralysed?
No, you don't.
I didn't take that on board. I took on board the facts that I was paralysed, and I accepted that it was permanent. I accepted the facts were there. They were written down. I took all that on board, but then I said to myself, the facts don't matter. This doesn't have to be my reality. I said to myself, I can change it. I can change science. I can change the physics. I can work with powers they don't know. This was my mental dialogue. I said, I've got God behind me. I said, I don't even know if he's real. I'll make him real. This was my dialogue. And so you see, I'm not paralysed.
No, you're not.
12 weeks later, I was walking, and I'd been diagnosed a cabbage when I was in coma. But my dialogue, my mental attitude was, I'm going for this. I'm going to do it, and it didn't matter how many years it took me. I was going to do it. That was my determination. That was my realization. That was my motivation.
That's the indomitable human will, the will to power,
yeah.
Literally.
That was I committed. That was my dream. And all the time I was on the bed, I was unable to move. I couldn't move anything. But I watched other people around me. They were all walking around, and I'd never heard of NLP at that time. In fact, back then, 40 years ago, NLP hadn't been invented. But NLP is based on modelling. And I watched everybody walking around me, and I modelled what they were doing. I imagined in my mind what that was made of, how it would feel if I could do that. And I projected my mind into their bodies. And then I pulled it back to my mind until I could do it. And that's how I modelled what they were doing. And Richard Bandler, years later, invented NLP. If I'd coined that term 40 years ago, NLP, I could have made a fortune out of it like Richard Bandler did. But I didn't coin that term.
No.
I invented it before he did, and I didn't get a cent. Nobody thanked me for it.
Oh, man. But you showed the technique to some people, haven't you? Your patients?
Well, I walked around that ward helping other people to walk. I wasn't content that I was walking. I crossed the ward and immediately helped other people walk.
How many people do you think you've healed from serious not maybe from mental issues, but the people like the lady that you saved in Arkansas or wherever it was in the United States. Remember we spoke to that lady that night?
Orlando.
Oh, Orlando, Florida. Yes. Now
I've lost track. I haven't kept account of it.
That's quite a
no idea how many. I've no idea how many people I've helped over the years.
Now you had a case about 6 months ago where there was a lady that I think they were maybe trying to put her back into a mental ward or something like that, and you went and testified on her behalf. Whatever became of that case?
She's still out there, and they're still trying to put her back into the psychiatric hospital. But she's I was speaking to her mother yesterday, and she's still on a CTO, which is a community treatment order. And she's still living in what do they call them? She's still living in a sheltered housing scheme, which is bad for her because she's living amongst drug addicts.
Oh, yeah. She's living in a halfway house. That's what we call it over here, a halfway house.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing. She could be living with her parents, which would be good for her because that would be a stable environment. But they won't let her live there, so she's living in a halfway house. She's got bed bugs. So
these governments would handle something, putting the person at risk, instead of actually helping them.
Well, they are deliberately putting them at risk because it creates a negative environment where they get sick and they maintain the sickness so they can put them back into the psychiatric hospital.
Yeah,
it's a terrible thing.
Yeah, they charge the taxpayers to, keep them there.
Yes.
And then there's no telling what type of torture they have to endure once they're in the psychiatric unit. We hear, electroshock treatments, gang rapes, all kinds of stuff. I mean, it must be hell on earth.
She's been raped 4 times while she was in one of these places.
Oh my God!
And they covered it up. And that's why she was put back into the psychiatric hospital, because she was complaining about being raped in one of these places, and so they decided she was psychotic and put her into a psychiatric hospital because she was complaining about being raped.
Oh my God, that is reprehensible. I cannot even believe the system has come that far. The injustice is unbelievable.
So don't complain about being raped. They won't take the rapist to prison. They'll put the victim in a psychiatric hospital.
Yeah, to be raped some more. Yeah, fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pathetic.
That's the kind of thing that goes on in England.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that goes on here as well. Seems to be a pattern.
It goes on everywhere. It's a terrible thing. It really is.
And there must be some method or some science or something behind it. In other words, there must be, it can't be that there's just that many sick individuals out there. When you have a institutionalized, basically rape, I guess, there must be serving some demon or something. I don't know. I just can't imagine where the benefit would come from that for these evil motherfuckers.
Well, there's just it's an evil system, isn't it? That's running government and running the councils, and it's. I mean, that's why they in the institutions, because they're feeding off the negative energy that they create, aren't they?
They're not. What about the energy that they create?
They're feeding off the negative energy that these systems create.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what's going on. I'm convinced of it. So is it the entities or the aliens or whatever that have possessed these people that are feeding off of this, or is it the people themselves, or how does the mechanics of that work?
I think it's the negative entities or aliens, or
I think so too.
It's all interlinked.
Yeah. I just can't believe that the human being would be doing that on their own.
But, I mean, Well, we know I say it's been going on for a long time. We know it's been going on for hundreds of thousands of years. Because I've been a victim to it myself. And because when I was in the hospital 40 years ago, I was living there in terror. Because every day I watched the bodies being taken out that they'd killed, in doing surgery on, brain surgery. And I knew I was next. How I escaped, I don't know. Because my parents had come in and signed the medical release documents, virtually, okay, yes, do anything you want with him. And I was 22 years old when my parents signed those documents, and I begged them, don't do it. There's psychopaths in here, they're experimenting on people, and the doctors were standing beside me saying, you see, he's crazy, that's exactly why we need to do this surgery. And I don't know how I escaped, because I prayed all the time. And I can only believe that my prayers must have saved me.
Oh yeah, they must have. Now, so you did not receive the surgery? Is that correct?
I say I didn't receive the surgery. I don't know for certain what happened to me when I was in there, because I was in there for a long time, and I had a major traumatic brain injury. And I was saying to a colleague of mine a few days ago who knows a lot about MK Ultra and that kind of thing. He's one of my fellow hypnotists. I interviewed him on my show the other day, actually, and he's been in prison himself for something he didn't do, and he knows the system. He knows Rupert Murdoch, and he was put in prison by one of Rupert Murdoch's cronies for something he hadn't done.
What was he doing to piss off the establishment?
Sorry?
What was he doing to piss off the establishment that they wanted to lock him up like that?
He was exposing them somewhat. But I was talking to him and saying to him that, I was in the hospital all those years ago, 40 years ago, and that was a hospital that was run by the Tavistock Institute. And you know the Tavistock Institute, don't you?
They brought us the Beatles, didn't they?
They did what, sorry?
The Beatles, the rock band The Beatles. They brought us the Beatles, didn't they? And Jimmy Savile?
May have done. But the Tavistock Institute are the group that are behind mind control and that kind of stuff. They're very much linked with the MK Ultra program. Where was I? Oh yes, so I was in there. I was traumatically injured. I was in a coma, and I've got lots of missing time when I don't know what happened to me. And it would be very easy for lots of things to have happened in there that I don't know about, that I'm not aware of. So although I didn't, as far as I know, have surgery, there's no telling what was happening to me when I was in there, so maybe I did have surgery. I know that I had electroconvulsive therapy while I was in there, which was...
Was that like electroshock therapy?
Sorry?
Electroshock therapy?
Yes.
Oh my God.
To have electroconvulsive therapy when you're recovering from a traumatic brain injury is beyond imagination. Because it gives you electroconvulsive therapy gives you a brain injury. Why would they give you a brain injury when you're recovering from one?
Oh my God, I mean, it just sounds like absolute torture.
Well, it was. They gave it to me as a punishment because I wouldn't toe the line and accept that I was paralysed.
You weren't paralysed enough, and so they just decided to hook you up to the electrical circuit. That's fucking...
They wanted to make me behave and toe the line.
Man.
And if they're doing mind control on you, one of the methods they use is ECT.
Electroconvulsive therapy.
Brain.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I bet you that really takes the fire out of you, doesn't it? When they hook you up with that electricity.
So maybe I didn't get brain surgery, but maybe I did get mind control. But I was saying to my colleague that it's interesting that I had traumatic brain injury, I had total amnesia, I didn't know what people were. And yet I was able to overcome the paralysis, start walking, cross the ward, and with no memory, I was able to start hypnotising people in the ward and get them walking. Because I said to them, where did I get that knowledge from? How did I know how to hypnotise people when I had amnesia? So he was saying, well, maybe it's because you've been hypnotised and so that's how you knew how to hypnotise people.
From a past life experience?
No, from being mind controlled. If they're mind controlling me, they're using hypnosis on me, then because I'm seeing them using hypnosis on me, then I would remember how to do it on other people, perhaps.
That stands to reason. There's probably something to that.
Because I've always been very good at doing hypnosis, although nobody ever taught me how to do it.
That's fascinating. Even now, you're a member of these hypnosis societies or whatever, but people, these hypnotherapists have different techniques that they use, different hypnotherapists?
There's lots of different techniques to do hypnosis. Hypnosis per se is very easy to do to anybody, but there are many, many different techniques for doing it.
Well, what about the quantum healing that you do? What's that?
It's an aspect of hypnosis. You know, it's a way of. It's how can I explain? It's something you do once you've got somebody hypnotised. It's like they taught me how to do it.
That's fascinating. Even now, you're a member of these hypnosis societies or whatever, but people, these hypnotherapists have different techniques that they use, different hypnotherapists?
There's lots of different techniques to do hypnosis. Hypnosis per se is very easy to do to anybody, but there are many, many different techniques for doing it.
Well, what about the quantum healing that you do? What's that?
It's an aspect of hypnosis. You know, it's a way of. It's how can I explain? It's something you do once you've got somebody hypnotised. It's like a place you go. Does that help you?
Yeah. What's the connection between hypnosis and NLP?
Well, NLP is modelling other people's behaviour. Really, if you imagine, if you want to be really successful, then you need to find somebody who's really successful and do what they do. So you might find Anthony Robbins. He's a really successful man. So you take a close look at what it is that Anthony Robbins does, and model what he does, model his behaviour. If you wanted to be a bricklayer, then because you don't know anything about bricklaying, you'd find a really good bricklayer and model what he does, copy their behaviour, and then pretty soon you'd be a pretty good bricklayer, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that reminds me of a story of Aleister Crowley. We were speaking about him earlier, and someone was wanting to know if he had any real power. A man who was sitting there walking with one of his friends, and he said, "Watch this." And there was a man who was walking down the street in front of them, several paces in front of them, and he started mimicking this man's gait and started walking in sync with this man, and then he fell to the ground, and then a moment later, that man that he was mirroring tripped and fell.
Yes. Amazing.
Oh my God, did you just now do that?
I just pushed it through my skin, yes.
I know. I sat here and watched that, and of course the camera got it all. And you're not bleeding. Wow. Wow. How long have you been doing that?
It's the first time I've done it.
You just now did that for the first... What made you... did it hurt?
No, not at all.
Wow. That's amazing. I can't believe we've got this on video. Yes, it's very distinctly clear. I can see. I mean, I saw you doing that. I didn't know what you were doing. I thought you were messing with the pen or something. My God.
It's starting to hurt now.
Okay, so what are you going to do? Take it out?
I can't take it out.
Is it because we're talking about it or thinking about it that it's starting to hurt? If you just ignored it, would it not hurt?
Well, it's a bit of an illusion, really. As we've been talking about magnets, haven't we?
Yes.
So think about it. If they're magnets.
Ah, yes, you fooled me. You fooled me.
But it is starting to hurt because it's pinching.
Oh.
Because they're very powerful magnets.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I wonder if that's how they do that in the sideshow act.
Probably.
Oh,
very likely.
Yeah. Good trick. Good trick. Yes. Bravo. I like that. That was good. That was a good one. You really had me going on that. I was like, because I asked you, how often you do that.
It still hurt. It still hurt, though. Not that I'm aware of. I've had a near-death experience. I think you're getting confused. I've had a near-death experience, and I've been off planet. Not necessarily on a flying saucer, but I've been off planet with a near-death experience.
Oh, okay, I understand. So was it doing astral travel that you went off planet?
And I've been off planet doing the tunnel of light. Going down the tunnel of light towards the light, and after traumatic experience of a head injury. And so I've gone out of body, been ejected from my body, gone out of body, and travelled along the tunnel of light where you have what you might call spirit guides, I suppose, guiding you along the tunnel of light into heaven. And I've also stood outside of my body beside my hospital bed looking at myself. And so I've done that.
Oh, that's.
I wouldn't call them aliens.
Yeah.
But spirit bodies.
Yeah.
So I do. From that, I do know that there's more to us than this body, and so I'm very open to the idea that there might be other dimensions, other realms, and so indeed I've no doubt that there could well be aliens as well.
Yes.
And there are so many stories about aliens, and I've actually seen aerial unidentifiable objects, UFOs.
Well, I've experienced the Ghost Light Road phenomenon of East Texas a number of times, and so there's some questions, these glowing orbs, there's some questions if that might be some type of UFO.
Yeah, what I've seen, we've discussed as well before, that I've seen glowing orbs, that big, right at my feet. You remember we talked about that?
Yes, I do remember that.
When you talked about Ghost Light Road.
Yeah, now when you saw that orb, was it in a cemetery or something like that?
It was in an underground tunnel.
Oh yeah, now I remember. What was the nature of that tunnel? What was the tunnel there for?
It was tunnels that were made during the war it was like an underground factory that was used during the war to create, I believe, optics for searchlights or something like that. And then it was used later on, after the war, for storing parts for Volkswagens. And it was built in a hill underneath a famous mental hospital in the town where I lived. In fact, the mental hospital where the sister of our Queen lived, because she had epilepsy, so she was banished to save embarrassing the royal family. She was locked away throughout her life in solitary confinement with no visitors until she died. Never got a birthday card or anything from the Queen.
Oh, the sister of the Queen?
Yes, she lived in solitary confinement her entire life. no visitors, no presents, no life. Just lived in solitary confinement in Cane Hill Hospital throughout her life. And she was buried eventually in an unmarked grave.
Wow, why were they so cruel to her?
Well, they didn't want to be embarrassed by her, did they? She had epilepsy.
Ah, epilepsy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because they're inbreeds, aren't they? The royal family are inbreeds. They sort of marry each other's cousins and that kind of thing to remain purebred.
To keep it in the family, so to speak.
So many of them are born insane, aren't they? And that kind of thing. So they hide them away. That's why Prince Charles is insane.
Oh, because he's inbred?
Yes. They're all inbred.
I didn't know that he was insane.
Come on, just look at him. He's a crazy. Look at him. He's got big ears. His body's deformed. He's got funny ears.
Yeah, and there was something he was saying recently about, he was bragging about being related to Vlad Dracula. Did you hear about that?
Was he?
Yeah, did you hear about that? A couple of years ago.
I didn't know. I didn't.
He's claiming to be, related to Vlad the Impaler. And,
That reminds me, I've just heard recently that Harry's getting married on the 19th of May, I think, isn't it? And we've got to pay for it.
Oh my gosh, that doesn't sound cheap.
No, you'd think that they had enough money to pay for their own wedding, wouldn't you? But no, the British public have got to pay for it.
That's something else, isn't it? And, they from what I understand, they're some of the richest people in the world.
They are the richest people in the world. And yet we've got to pay for their wedding.
It's fascinating. Unbelievable.
And it makes me sick. They're going to be closing down all the streets so that people can have street parties. Why do we want to have street parties to celebrate their damn wedding? We are their slaves. Why should the slaves want to have a party to celebrate the pedophiles get married?
Yeah, good question. Good question.
It's crazy.
Yeah, very crazy. Let me grab another beer right quick. These abduction experiences, and if you think that it's possible that there may still be going on, but yet your memory is being wiped, and you.
I've met him at one of Miles's talks. I met him.
Fascinating. They're talking about having another talk now. Have you heard that Miles's sister has died?
Yeah, I did. When was that? Was that fairly recently?
It was very, very fairly recently. Miles Johnston's sister has died, and
suicide.
Well, maybe that's what it was ruled, and Miles didn't tell me this. I spoke to Miles yesterday, actually, just with texting, and then he did not tell me this, but it was intimated. I'm not going to say by who, but a couple of weeks ago that there's some people that believe that she was killed.
Yes, well, that went through my mind, but bearing in mind the things he's been saying lately.
Yeah, and another thing, he's stepping away from the Basis Project.
Yeah.
And Miles Johnston has given me personally and privately his blessings for me to carry on an American version of the Basis Project, which is called Basis Texas. And we've already got the Basis Texas Facebook page, and we've already got basistexas.org. So, and, oh, you mean like a cell phone tower?
Yes.
Yes, well, that's where a lot of people say that these targeted, scalar weapons or directed weapons, whatever they are, come from, is these cellular towers.
Yeah. But I don't think they could, I don't think with technology being the way it is, I don't think they could use one of those towers to individually pick me out when I'm in a block with 28 apartments with God knows how many people living here. I think they would need something more sophisticated than one of those towers to pick me out amongst all the people who are living here.
Maybe and maybe not, but what if when you had your surgery or something, you had some device or something implanted in you?
Well, I said, I don't know if I've had surgery. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. but if I had, I wouldn't know. But as far as I know, I've got no scars, but it is possible that they've just done a very good job of the surgery, because I'm only basing what I'm saying on what I assume to be current technology at the time. But while I was in there, they could have done futuristic surgery that leaves no scars. They could have just beamed it into me. How do they put those things into people without them knowing?
Well, I don't know, but I think what we're talking about is implants. And we've heard about, of course, associated with UFOs and UFO implants, alien implants, whatever. Well, one idea that's relatively new, or at least I only started hearing about this a couple of years ago, is the idea of etheric implants. That there's somehow some technology that they can put, things that would not be physically that you touch. And in some of my meetings, which were taken with Christopher S. Jacobs, who's a very powerful psychic, and somebody else, one of my other psychics, has actually at least claimed to have removed etheric implants from me. So
yes.
They weren't hurting me or anything like that. I just, it's just hard to understand how this all works. Now, one thing that I can tell you is that I have studied a little bit, researched Dr. Patrick Flanagan, who's still alive, and also Dr. John C. Lilly, who is the guy who's credited for discovering or inventing or whatever the Lilly wave. And for sure, mind could being able to influence a person's mind with electromagnetism and waves and stuff like that. Absolute fact.
Yeah.
It's an absolute fact that they can do that. And not only change your emotional state, make you become agitated or something like this, but from what I understand, actually transmit ideas into the person's head. And that's absolutely real.
I don't doubt that at all.
So if they can do that, certainly they would be able to, put some buzzing noises in somebody. But I see what you're talking about. How would they be able to target it right at you? Unless there was maybe something up on that tower that they put a gun or something that was aimed at your flat or whatever. Is that what you call it, your apartment?
A flat, yes.
Flat, okay.